I was at an event last week, and when I got done speaking, someone came up to me and she introduced herself as Andrea. And Andrea basically had a situation that I've seen all too many times, and maybe you can associate with it as well. And here's her situation. She basically started her business 10 months ago as a side hustle. And what she told me is that she thought that she would be further along in her business than she actually was at that given moment. And she told me that she was putting in the hours, she was doing the work, but she had this perception that the business would be further along, that it would be easier, that the revenue would be higher, that the profit would be higher, that the business would take less time. And all of this felt overwhelming to her. And she was at the point where she was considering, like, do I keep going or do I basically call it a day? And it's a very interesting question, and I want to answer that on this episode today. So welcome to Fix My Business. I'm your host, Scott Todd. I have built multiple seven-figure businesses after leaving corporate America. My first one was the side hustle. I feel Andrea's pain. So that's why I want to address it here. Okay, so here's the deal. I think that a lot of people need to really hear this, and I hope that you hear this. If you're running a new business, if you're doing it as a side hustle, there's a wall that exists around the 9 to 10 month period. It could come a little bit earlier. It could come a little bit later. And I've seen this wall happen to thousands of people. I mean, I've helped over 2,000 people work to start their businesses, and it almost kind of comes with a cadence. Okay, this happens. And see, what happens is around that 9-10 month period, well, basically the business becomes brutal. And the reason it becomes brutal is that you have burned through your initial excitement. The stuff that we launched with, the excitement, the hope, the joy, the dreams, they're gone. You've burned through that energy. And the wins don't come fast enough. And then you get this resistance, this inner voice that comes to you and basically says, call it a day, punch out. And like I've said, I've seen this thousands of times. It is a pattern, and it is a pattern that, well, I almost fell for at about the 9 month period. That's how I know it's real. I lived through this. My numbers weren't where I thought that they would be. I wasn't achieving what I thought I would achieve. And basically what happened was I almost tapped out. Like, I came so close. And if I didn't, I talk about it in the book, Fix This Next for Real Estate Investors. And if I would have tapped out, then I probably wouldn't be here today. I'd probably be in a new corporate job, not living the dream life that we're all intended to live. Okay. Like, this is the whole thing. Now, here's why this happens. You see, starting a business takes rocket launch energy. Think about that for a second. Rocket launch energy. It takes a lot of energy to get something off the ground. Just try to jump. Like, gravity is going to hold you down. The same thing is going to happen to your business. Now, a side hustle is even worse. And here's why. That's because your energy, the amount of energy that you have in a given day, is split three ways: your day job, your family, and then this business that you're trying to launch. And, if you're trying to launch a rocket on a third of the fuel, well, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that probably you got to give yourself grace, and that the timeline is going to be longer, and it's going to take you longer to get to where you want to be, and the progress isn't going to be as fast. So I think it's important that you acknowledge the physics that's taking place here. And when you do that, you will stop beating yourself up and comparing other people. And look, comparison is a real thing, right? Like, you look around, you see people that maybe started around the same time that you did. Maybe they got lucky. By the way, if they've exceeded where you are, they probably have been lucky. But it's the tortoise and the hare here. Okay, there is no time horizon. Now you can say, Scott, I had this vision of being out of my job in a year. Well, make it 3 years. See, that is a time horizon that you set. Or maybe you're like, I really, really need this amount of income today. Well, you may not get it today, but there's nothing saying that you couldn't get it in 18 months from now. And in 18 months from now, it could be way beyond that number. But you have to just acknowledge the fact that you may not achieve what you want on your time frame. There's no bad goals. There's unrealistic time horizons. And so this is really the point here, is that what we have to do is, in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve, we have to really get really good at kind of letting go of some of these things that we have built into our own system. Now, here's what really got me going and helped me to get beyond that little wall. And it's something that really I've seen other people do as well. And so to me, it's really the way around this, and that is to leverage other people. Now, what I mean by that is you cannot do all of this on your own. And I see a lot of business owners, and I talk to a lot of business owners who they're solopreneurs. They're like, I do everything myself. I don't want employees. Well, there's a limit to how large you're going to grow. That's just the reality. And that's fine, as long as that fits into your goals and your strategy and what you're trying to accomplish. But when you're launching a business as a side hustle, you only have a certain amount of time. And what you have to do is you have to get really, really good at giving up control and letting other people do the work that you hired them to do. Now, this is normally where I get pushback. People are like, oh, hold on. You just said hire somebody. I don't want to spend the money. Let me address that in 1 second. I'll get there. Now, the next pushback that I hear, if it's not about the money, is I can't hire good people. Well, look, sometimes hiring people is hard. It's especially hard in the beginning if you've never hired somebody, because if you haven't gone through this whole process of what it looks like to onboard an employee, it's going to be hard for you because it's not natural. There is no class in the world, in a school, even in a university, that teaches delegation. It doesn't have, like, I have an MBA, right? Like I've gone through it. No one ever taught me how to delegate. Corporate America, as I rose through the ranks, did not teach me how to delegate. They would tell you, you have to delegate, but nobody ever taught me proper handoff and proper onboarding of people. But you see, this is where you have to put some rules in. I have a rule, the 30X training rule. If I'm going to bring you onto my company and I'm going to ask you to do a task that takes me an hour a week, well, then I need to be prepared to spend 30 times that amount training you to do that job. So if it takes me an hour a week, I need to give you 30 hours of my time, not in 1 week, over your period before I expect you to be where you need to be. And that people don't realize that that's the time that it takes, but it does. Now, I've talked a lot about these traps, these 4 traps that exist in every single business. I don't care if it's a small business, big business, whatever it is, it exists in every single business. The control trap is where the owner holds in the work. Okay, they become the bottleneck, whether they mean to or not. They really do. And that control trap kills side hustlers faster than, well, anything else that I know, because you only have a few hours. And if you spend those few hours a day trying to run everything, you will never get the traction or the leverage that you need. Now, here's the way that I want you to reposition your mindset here, because it's also a mindset problem. You can bring people on, but then you also have to address that kind of that inner critic troll that's with you. And here's what I don't want you to do, or here's what I actually want you to do, is when you're feeling down, what I don't want you to do is kind of say like, I'm tired, I just want to quit. I don't want you to do that. What I want you to do is I want you to look at where you're spending your time. So when you're feeling defeated, when you're feeling like this is impossible, I want you to stop and look at the task that you're doing right now. Is it $10 an hour work? or is it $1,000 an hour work? Think about that for a second. See, if it's $10 an hour work, $20 an hour work, then that means that it's not meant for you. But if it's $1,000 an hour work, that's the work that you need to be doing. And what happens is we get stuck in this low dollar amount work. That is work that other people can leverage. And this is what I was saying earlier when I was saying that, like, most people say, I don't want to spend the money. I get it. Because like you may not have a lot of money there to spend. But here's the reality, is that if you onboard somebody who can do that lower dollar amount work, and you get them really, really good at that, so that you can spend your time on the higher dollar amount work, the stuff that's going to bring you back more dollars, now you're trading off. And so what I want you to really think about, and when people tell me, like, I don't want to spend the money, the one thing that I tell them is, think about this as like a J. Okay. So like your profitability might be on some line here, and then you hire someone and the lower hook of the J goes down. That's your profitability. It goes down before it goes back up again. So if you trade $10 an hour work, meaning like you pay someone $10 an hour, but now you can go do work that's going to come back to you. Maybe it's sales, marketing, something that's going to bring you back more dollars. The trade-off is the leverage, and the leverage is going to give you the push, but you need to kind of understand that it's a process, and it's not a fun process. The fun left when you had the business launch. That was the exciting days. Then you get into the grind days that I call the muddy mile. Now, if you're doing tasks that someone else could be doing, the other part of this is that you're burning rocket fuel on the wrong things. And remember, we're talking about managing your energy here. So the breakthrough isn't more grind for you. It's really the better use of your hours. So if you fall within this wall, or you know someone that is, I want you to know this is a real thing. It happens. And this is where a lot of people check out. They check out right here. This is where they punch out. I'm done. And I don't want that. I don't want you to do that. I don't want anybody to do that. So if you know someone that's hitting that wall, you have a duty to pull them along with you and say, you're not quitting. Give them this episode. No way. I'm not letting you do it. And if you're doing it, I want you to come back to this episode anytime that you're feeling challenged, because look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen more than you think. Come back to this one and go, am I doing this? See, the ones who break through are not the ones that are working harder here. They're the ones that have let go of that lower dollar amount work. They're the ones that have let go of the work that you were never intended to do. And by the way, if you're listening this far and you're like, this is the wall that I'm at right now, congratulations. You are right on schedule. Now, if you have a business question, business challenge, I want you to head over to scotttodd.net/ask. I read every single submission, and I will see you in our next episode.